Hello everyone, this is Matt Hoffner, and for my second producer's assignment, I thought I'd talk about one of my favorite video games to play, and that game is Civilization 6. Like the name suggests, this isn't the first game in the series. There's been 5 others, and before that there was even a board game, so it's been around for quite some time. The most recent one that came out, Civilization 6, as I mentioned beforehand, was released back in October of 2016 and had its most recent edition or update on February 14th, 2019, so about a month and a half ago. And I thought, as such, I should create a video explaining how to best win as each civilization, or what victory types each civilization is very, very good at. Just a disclaimer, I have been playing Civilization 6 since it launched. Before that, I played Civilization 5, and in Civilization 6, I've achieved every single victory type, and I've also played as every single leader, 46 in total. So I believe probably one of the best places to start is with the victory types. And another quick disclaimer is that there's a lot of stuff that comes, there's a lot of knowledge that is needed to play a Civilization game. And I can't really go through everything in detail, but I'll try to make it as understandable as possible for people who haven't played before. So there are 6 victory types in Civilization 6. One of them is a score victory, which is basically whoever has the highest score at the end of a set amount of turns wins. I don't really consider that a victory type per se, so I'm not going to be talking about that one. Rather, I'm going to be focusing on the 5 main ones that are in the game. It was originally 4 in the base game, but they added a 5th one in the most recent expansion. So the first one I'd like to talk about is one that I think is very common, but it's not one that I tend to go for, and that's the domination victory. And as the name suggests, it's a very military-focused victory type. You have to have a strong military to win this victory. Basically, it involves capturing the capital cities, which are the first founded and settled city of every other civilization that you're playing against. And for me, I believe far and away the best civilization for this victory type is Shaka of the Zulus. Basically, what Shaka's special ability is that he can form things called corps and armies, which are basically military units that are combined together to have an even bigger strength. He can form those better military units much quicker than anybody else. And also his special unit, the Impies, which replace the traditional pikemen, can be produced very quickly and for much cheaper. And in addition to that, he can produce the corps and armies, the stronger military types, much faster than anybody else can. So he gets them quicker, he can produce them faster, basically means he can swarm entire cities, and there won't be much to stop him. So he is definitely my pick for the strongest domination leader. Next, we'll get a little bit more cultural, a little bit more peaceful with the culture victory. The culture victory is one that I tend to go for a lot. It's not my favorite. We'll get to that eventually. But the culture victory is essentially building up your culture in your civilization, which is done by building these things called theater squares, which are a special district or a type or area outside your city where you can house specialty buildings. And so the theater square houses things like amphitheaters, which house great works of art, or great works of writing rather, art museums, which can host great works of art, archaeology museums, which can host artifacts that you send out your little archaeologist units to go dig up, and also broadcast towers, which host great works of music. So my pick for the strongest cultural leader is Mavemba Nzinga of the Congo. 2 African Civs in a row, wow. So basically, my pick for this one is fairly straightforward. He has massive bonuses to artifacts, especially, which are things you're going to be needing for a culture victory. They give him a bunch of food, gold, and production, which basically means he can build up cities to be really, really big, and he can also have the production to create other cities, of which he can place down theater districts and then have more great works of art. And also in his capital city, the first founded city, there's a special building in every single capital called the Palace. But for the Congo's Palace, normal palaces can only hold 1 great work of art or artifact, but the Congo's Palace can hold 5, which again is going to be great for tourism. Because basically all these artifacts and stuff together are going to add up to your tourism, which basically means other people from other civilizations are going to be coming to your lands to see your great works of art, your wonders, which are also things that can be built by the city, and basically your tourism has to exceed the cultural output of every other civilization to win. And that is something that Mvemba Nzinga of the Congo can do very, very well. Moving on to the science victory, which is my favorite one. It's the one that I get most often. Basically, for this one, as I'm sure you can tell by the name, it involves around building up your science, the science output of your civilization, the technological output of it, to try to zoom up the technology tree, which governs, what types of technologies you can use for each era. Basically, get enough science to go up as quickly as possible, which is only one part of the battle. The next part is you have to build a special district called the spaceport, which is where you can build the space parts in order to get further on to the science victory. The first one you built is the Earth satellite, which reveals the entire map, which is pretty cool. Then you go on to the moon landing, then a Mars colony, and then an exoplanet expedition, basically sending out a spaceship to look for an exoplanet. So, as I said, science is a very important part of this victory, but something else that is also very important is production. Basically, production governs how fast your cities can build certain things, like spaceports, for example, or those spaceships that are needed to get a science victory. And the civilization that I think does that the absolute best, far and away, are the Inca, led by Pachacuti. The Inca start near mountain tiles, which really don't give much benefit to any other civilization, but for the Inca they're huge because they have these special things called terrace farms, which are like normal farms, but they can only be built on hill tiles, which normally farms can't be built on until much later. And they provide a lot of food and production, and as I said before, production is very important for a science civ. And unlike any other civilization, Incas can actually take advantage of the mountain tiles in their territory, which gives them even more production. So that's the production part of it settled. As for science, these mountain tiles that the Inca, settled their cities near, give massive bonuses to a district called a campus, which basically is where you put all your science buildings. It gives huge bonuses to that. So that means Inca can zoom up the tech tree really, really fast and can build the necessary components for the science victory also very, very quickly. So Inca are my choice for the best civ in science. Next victory condition we're going to look at is the religion victory. Religion is a very important part of civilization. In previous games, it was not a victory condition, but in this game, in Civilization 6, it was actually the first game to introduce religion as a way of winning the game. Religions can be founded by any civilization except for the Congo. The Congo is the only civilization in Civilization 6 that can't found a religion. Basically, you need to build a special district. This time it's the holy site, which can hold shrines and temples, and later on specialty buildings based on the type of religion you want to found. So, for instance, if you have the meeting house as your special building, that gives more production to the city. A Wat gives more science. A cathedral has a spot for a great work of art. So there's some things you can do. Basically, religion helps bolster certain other victory types, but like I said, it's a victory type in and of itself. In order to win a religious victory, you need to convert every other civ into your religion, which basically means you need to convert 50% of their population, or 51% of their population to your civilization for every other civ, which involves wiping out religions from other people, which means you need to build certain units that fight other religious units. So it's not like a war where you have two armies fighting each other. It's more like you have two preachers who are going to be using theological combat to sort of debate with each other and win the day. So the civ that I think is best at religious victory is Peter the Great of Russia. One thing about Peter that's very interesting is that he spawns near tundra tiles, and tundra tiles are notoriously seen as one of the worst tiles in the game because they don't really provide much. They only provide one food resource, which is a very poor yield for a tile. But for Peter, these tundra tiles, they provide one production, which is very important, even if you're not going for a science victory. And they also provide one faith, and faith is basically the currency that you need in order to buy units to win a religious victory. So all that tundra around him is going to be giving him a lot of faith. Tacked on with the fact that you can found things called pantheons, which are basically the precursors to religion. They give set bonuses. One such pantheon gives massive, massive bonuses to holy sites that are found in tundra. So you can settle all these tundra cities, get up these holy sites that have huge bonuses to religion. So just have a bunch of faith non-stop, which you can use to buy your apostles to wipe out other people's religions and ruin a religious victory. So Peter the Great, definitely great at winning a religious victory. And now we come to the last victory type, diplomacy, the one that was added by the most recent expansion, the Civilization 6. And the best civilization for this one is one that's really near and dear to me. Is Teddy Roosevelt of America. Just so happened to be my favorite American president. I might be a little biased there, but his proclivity for getting a diplomatic victory is really, really unrivaled by any other civilization. So basically what a diplomacy victory is there's a new mechanic that was added in the new expansion called the World Congress, which basically every 30 turns or so, you get a vote on certain proposals which could help or hurt you as a civilization. And in order to vote on these proposals, you need another type of currency, just like how gold and faith are currencies. You need a special type of currency called diplomatic favor, which you can spend to vote out proposals that are good for your civilization and vote for some proposals that would cripple your rivals. So basically you have to be there's a new level of thinking in terms of diplomacy. Teddy Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt gets a lot of bonuses towards diplomatic favor. You can see, in order to win a diplomatic victory, you need a vote for a resolution that gives you diplomatic victory points. And once you've accrued 10 diplomatic victory points, you've won a diplomatic victory. And Teddy Roosevelt is pretty much the only civilization that actually gives bonuses per turn towards generating this diplomatic favor. So there's a part in civilization called governments, where basically there's a chart, and you just fill in that chart with certain policy cards. There's certain cards for each chart, and basically there's some types of governments that give a lot of wild card slots, which means you have less, say, economic or diplomatic or military slots, but you have a lot of slots that you can just throw in random ones for. And for Teddy Roosevelt, for every wild card slot he has in his government, he gets one diplomatic favor per turn. So that means he can generate a lot of diplomatic favor, which is then used to win the game through a diplomatic victory. So that's all the 5, well, technically 6, but again, score victory really isn't a victory condition that I'm really concerned about. All of them explained, and all the civilizations who I think are best suited for said victory types. Again, this is just my opinion. If you ask another player, they'll probably have a wildly different list, but this is basically just the bonuses I've seen, and as I said before, I've played as all these leaders, so I think, based on that experience, these are the best civilizations to win victory for each type. Thank you for listening.